book starts off with him getting smacked in the face with a bat. Not his baseball dreams get kind of smashed in high school. And then he gets into college and he starts implementing systems. He kind of goes in the tank and starts working out, sleeping, studying, doing all these processes that that build and build and build. And then, by the end of his college career, he's like #1 or something. He's a pretty top level baseball player. I think that's roughly the intro. And then chapter 1, he goes into the British cycling team, basically changing little pieces of the process. They were, they never even were in contention for Tour de France. And then their athletes won like 4 years in a row, or 4 out of 5 years, or something like that. From like changing their bicycle pants to the grease on their tires to mattresses, all these little incremental things.
Oh, right, the sleeping.
Yeah.
And the pillows.
And, and what it kind of reminded or made me think about is us honing our processes and, like increasing our level of software competency and just access to software. It seems it's a lot for us to all take on. I know we're getting there. It can seem overwhelming, right? You got Sharp, especially for a new person to come in. You got SharpSoft, then you have Plan Swift, Construct Connect. We've got a Trello board. We've got this and that. So I think the thing that I took away from it was to try to just make those incremental gains. I mean, he kind of goes the opposite of Grant's massive action, which I think they can be hybridized, where Grant's all about massive action, but then you can take it to the other side of the spectrum where, that's good. But identify a process and start making the incremental changes to go towards your massive action goal. Like, he also talks about goals not being kind of like, that's great in practice, but what we should really be doing is developing the process. And because once you get to the goal, then what? You should be just doing your process, and that's how you keep these things sustained for long periods of time.
Scotty.
How's it going, guys? Sorry I'm late.
Sorry, Scotty, how's it going?
All good. So for me, it was, just that paradox of time, and that whatever you're doing, that time is going to amplify. Mm-hmm. So if you have a bad habit, the longer you do it, the harder it is to break that. But when you start putting in the work, you expect it to be quick, but then it's not, and you get that I forget what he called it, that in between where you're expecting it to be a certain degree, but you're not seeing the results here, you're not seeing the results, but you keep putting in that work, and all of a sudden it'll just take off. And it's that it makes it look like, the people who are successful did it overnight, but they did it for years or whatever, however long it took for them to reach that breaking point. And it's just that time will multiply that. You got to keep putting in those steps.
Yeah, 100%. The incremental, the 1% incremental improvement, right? He talked about. That was like, that the whole story about the bicycle team. That one always sticks with me because, here they were so bad that the manufacturers of bicycles didn't want to sell bicycles. They were so bad.
Right.
And, and they focused on, incremental improvement. And then I think, what they really did well was they drilled down into every little detail and found a way to solve small problems that then added up to big change, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, I agree with what you're saying about you know, if you take these guys at face value, you got Grant has this like set huge goals, go hard, da 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 da. And then we got this approach of, you know, just have something, but it's more about the process, right? And I'd say they're both right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like he said in the chapter there, you know, yeah, he's like throw away the goals, but at the same time, he also kind of said it's still good to have them so that you have your waypoint.
Yeah.
You know, like he also said is that an airplane, if it's, you know, 3 degrees off, you're ending up in a whole different city.
Yeah.
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 And so you got to have that waypoint. You got to have that goal to keep going toward, but you got to make those incremental steps at the same time.
Yeah. And I think if you blend the two, like Grant's very disciplined. He thrives on building processes. And what his massive action mentality comes out of is realizing how hard it's going to be, right? And that's kind of the same thing. It's like, man, you might have this habit that it's hard to break, and it takes intentional action, right? And what Grant's saying is, whatever you think that intentional action is, just assume it's going to be harder than that. Like, just assume it's going to be harder, and then put that energy into actually seeing a result versus kind of giving up before you even get started, because it becomes too, you know.
I got an interesting one that I don't, it kind of relates to this. It's like so like a couple months ago, I changed my diet up completely. It was, and I pretty much been eating the same thing the whole time. Like, it's not looking at food as like a reward. It's just like gas in the tank, right? So here's this. So I went, it's been like, you know, like lots of fruits, vegetables, red meat. And it's not per any program, it's just like what things I like and as natural stuff as it can go. And I went to this taqueria with my buddy the other night, and we got tacos. And well, there's two events. I ate tacos one night, and I woke up the next morning and I felt like shit for like the first half of the day. It was crazy how noticeable it was. And I realized, I was like, man, I'm not missing that stuff at all. The other thing was I drank a soda one day and ate a piece of cheesecake. And the next morning I had this massive headache, and it was like, I was like, holy shit, it's just like the incremental change one way, and then I went the other way, and it was like the shock of like the habit I had gotten into being broken out of. And I had never noticed it before, but it kind of put things in perspective, you know? I don't know if that relates, but it kind of does, you know?
Yeah, because it's
Sure it does. I mean, if you were to make that, you know, a habit to eat that cheesecake and those tacos all the time, you know, your body would recognize that, and like it would go that direction. And you wouldn't feel bad anymore. You wouldn't feel it, but that's not, you know, good. And you're having that bad habit going the wrong direction. Whereas if you eat good and you're doing that good habit every day, you feel so much better and you recognize it now.
Yeah. And I knew tacos weren't like the best thing in the world, but I was like, yeah, it's not Burger King, you know? Yeah. But it was an eye-opening experience. The soda and the cheesecake thing and the pounding headache the next morning was like a big surprise. It was like one glass of soda and a piece of cheesecake did it. Like, wow. Jeez. I felt like crazy. I was hungover. Like,
wow.
Oh man. How about you, kid?
Don't know if this was already talked about, but missed a little bit of that. I think the blend between Grant Cardone's Massive Action and this book is that Grant Cardone's Massive Action, you were already kind of talking about this a little bit, but Grant Cardone's Massive Action isn't necessarily that you've got to do big tasks. You can do little things like just the whole follow up with a handwritten note. That's a little
Yeah.
task. Grant's massive action says, okay, now you take that little habit, make sure you do it every time and set a schedule. And all right, now after first contact, is it 1 month out? You do the handwritten note?
I don't remember, but yeah, he's got a
Oh,
whole
he's
schedule
got a
for
schedule.
like
Yeah.
200 days follow up or something.
Yeah.
Each little piece of follow up is a small habit, but you build it out for all of your clients, so it becomes massive action.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they both, one of the things that, what's the name of the author
James
on this
Clear?
one? James used a term that Grant uses a lot too, and Brandon about potential. He says, how do you lift up to your potential? And they both are looking through that lens, which I think makes it clear that not everybody's the same, right? And some people have a different way or a different path than the other guy. Doesn't make either one less or more valid. It just is probably more about finding the one that speaks to you the loudest, right? And they're both, other than James's got a little different perspective on goals. He said that the goals help you to reach your potential, and and once you reach that potential, then it's time for new potential. And they're both saying that differently. And Grant's just more aggressive about it because that's who he is. That's how he thinks. That's what drives him is, I need a goal to go for, so I do something every day. But I know when I reach that goal, I'm just gonna keep going to the next one. Or like Brandon says, if you have a big goal and you don't get to that goal, if that's you still made progress. And progress you wouldn't necessarily have made if you didn't have that goal, right? If you were just like, a lot of people and you're just kind of satisfied with your day-to-day existence, you don't think out, in terms of potential, that's how people get stuck, right? They get stuck in the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody talks about their comfort zone. That's the most dangerous place to be. Because if you're comfortable, it doesn't take much to come along and make you extremely uncomfortable, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
My comfort's the snooze button. I love that snooze. But today was the one time I didn't like the snooze because I didn't pass out right away. I knew in the back of my head that little step I wanted to take was to get up with the first one.
Good
So,
job.
tomorrow I won't snooze.
Yeah. And I start doing that thing where I leave the phone on the dresser. You have to get out of bed to turn it off.
And I can't even make it to my alarm anymore. I just up.
You wake up.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
really?
like I just like sometimes I'm like, okay, I turn on ancient Sumerian history for an hour and then I'll fall back to sleep. Other times I get up at 3, but it's like I'm like,
Wow.
I don't know.
Healthy living, man.
Yeah.
There you go.
Another success story over here. Healthy living, Aaron.
Hey, I'll say this, the cleansing, like the diet change, I definitely never felt like changing all the way down to the type of coffee I drink. It's a crazy different feeling, like because a normal coffee was like tightening I don't know if it's the amount of caffeine or what, but it was just like causing all this stress. And yeah, it's definitely feels
Interesting.
like a relief,
You're gonna your next bid room segment is gonna be Aaron's Healthy Corner.
Full hippie. Yeah.
There you go.
Healthy living
Hippie
with
corner.
Mr. Muscle. Healthy habits. Triple H, Hosmer's Healthy Habits.
I think another point on it that he kind of talked about was like, you don't go to the gym 3 days and expect to be ripped. You don't, eat healthy one time and expect to lose weight. The healthy, what does he say? Your weight is a lagging indicator of a healthy diet. Your strength is a lagging indicator of your workout process. So like if we can all program our minds, it's like a cognitive reassociation type thing where not you're not going to wake up and just be like, oh yeah, okay, just get through this. I know later in the book he talks about pro athletes and like how pro athletes are like the best at doing boring shit again and again and again or something like that. So it's like if you just do the process, Scotty was saying a minute ago, that the explosion that comes later, especially if someone hasn't seen you in a while, it's like, whoa, what the hell have you been up to?
I think, the overnight success thing is like, man, everyone who talks about their success has that same story. They're like, it was overnight because you just saw me today, but I've been doing this for years. Like it took me years to get here.
Right.
And maybe that's part of the psychology of people, right? It's like, man, we want to see it like that. And so, you see somebody, suddenly they're successful. Well, you didn't know them for that 25 years or 30 years or 5, whatever their timeline was. You didn't see them in the struggle, right? You just all of a sudden see them like, oh, this guy's flying around in jets. I want that. But you don't have the discipline to get in the habits to get you to the jet. So
exactly. And look how long Amazon lost money for before boom.
Yeah.
That's
and the bigger the goal,
time.
The bigger the goal, the longer that's going to be stretched out until you hit that breaking point where you break through. So you have to understand like that you may have to take those small steps for a really long time until you reach that big goal. But if you keep doing it, keep going, you'll get there.
In the financial markets, they call it consolidation, where a chart's just going like this, ding, 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 and then you just see this poke up above the trend line, and it's off to the races.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I enjoyed the first chapter and can't wait to see what happens next.
Yep.
I haven't held back yesterday. I didn't listen to chapter 2 because I was like, all right, I got to just stick with chapter 1 or I'm going to get too far ahead of myself. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.